General Hospital spoilers reveal that one of the explosions in the new storyline is that Ric is truly seeking revenge on those who have caused him harm after the accident. No longer the calm and calculating man he once was, Ric is now driven by anger and a thirst for justice that he feels has been denied for too long. The long nights in the hospital bed, full of pain and loneliness, have led him to deeply reflect on his life and those who have wronged him. Ric no longer cares about keeping family peace or protecting Christina from the consequences of her actions. Instead, he is quietly planning not only to expose Christina's crimes but also to ensure she pays dearly for what she has done. Every pang of pain from his accident only strengthens Ric's resolve. He has nearly lost his life, and Elizabeth, who was innocent in this entire story, also came close to being taken from this world. What enrages Ric even more is the fact that Christina has shown no remorse or even acknowledged her responsibility. Instead, she continues her life as if nothing has happened, even visiting the hospital to display false concern, an act that Ric sees as extremely hypocritical and offensive. In these brief encounters, he has to restrain himself from exposing her right then and there, knowing that his moment will come, and when it does, his revenge will be served coldly and thoroughly. The new story is escalating as Ric and Ava begin to collaborate more closely on their investigation. Though they initially had different motives, Ava wanting to use the information to bargain with Sonny, while Ric wants justice, they quickly realize that combining their resources will bring quicker results. Their relationship, already complicated with vague emotions and undeniable attraction, now becomes even deeper as they work together toward a common goal. Ava, with her manipulative and calculating nature, has begun to realize that Ric's anger could be a powerful tool in her plan. She subtly nurtures it, frequently reminding him of the pain he has endured, how Christina has never had to pay for her past mistakes, and how the Corinthos family always seems to escape any consequences. This strategy is working, with Ric becoming more determined to seek justice, even if it means facing the consequences of tearing his family apart. One of the new calculations at play as Ric and Ava search for evidence of Christina's crime is the way they approach each potential witness. They've divided the list of people who might know something, from parking attendants to regular customers at the bar where Christina works, and launched a sophisticated campaign to gather information. Ava, with her charm and manipulation skills, has taken on the task of approaching witnesses who are susceptible to her allure, while Ric uses his legal skills and network of contacts to approach those who may need a legal incentive to cooperate. Ric has reached out to a few former colleagues from his time as a prosecutor, looking for any records that could relate to Christina or any similar cases that could help build a case against her. He's uncovered a disturbing pattern of impulsive and violent behavior, from the time she attacked Valerie Spencer years ago to recent public arguments with customers at the bar. Each individual incident could be dismissed as an isolated occurrence, but when considered together, they paint a picture of a woman who is slowly losing control. Meanwhile, Ava has focused on gathering specific evidence about the night of the accident. She has used her connections to obtain not only surveillance footage from the parking lot but also a detailed technical report confirming that the brake lines had been intentionally cut, not due to random malfunction. She even found a witness, a janitor working nearby, who saw a woman matching Christina's description leave the scene that night, looking flustered and in a hurry. This combination is proving to be a powerful formula, with each puzzle piece slowly falling into place, revealing a clear picture of Christina's crime. As they dig deeper, they realize that Christina's actions were not just an impulsive outburst but the result of a series of events and decisions that led her to that fateful moment. They discovered that before the incident, Christina had a huge argument with Sonny about how he always sheltered her, and that she had started drinking heavily at the bar after her shifts. These details not only strengthen the legal case against Christina but also provide a psychological profile that could be used to understand, though not justify, her actions. This not only strengthens Ric's resolve to seek justice but also makes Ava reconsider her plan. She begins to realize that the information they're collecting could have far-reaching consequences beyond a simple custody battle. If Christina is charged with intentional injury or even manslaughter, it could lead to a broader investigation into the Corinthos family, potentially threatening not just Sonny but also his business empire. And if that happens, Who knows what other secrets might be exposed, including ones Ava herself may not want to bring to light. The situation becomes even more complicated when Molly, Ric's daughter, starts her own investigation into her father's accident. With her sharp mind and determination, Molly has begun asking questions that no one wants to answer, and she is getting closer to the truth. Ric now faces a new dilemma. Should he continue on his path of revenge, knowing it could ruin Molly's relationship with her sister? Or should he back off to protect his daughter from the painful truth about her own family? Meanwhile, Elizabeth, who is still recovering from the accident, has started to have vague memories of that night, including an image of a woman who looked like Christina near the car before they drove away. As these fragments of memory become clearer, Elizabeth will have to face her own decision about whether to share what she remembers, especially when she knows that doing so could cause a crisis in the Davis-Corinthos family. As this storyline continues to unfold, it promises to shake the foundations of Port Charles, challenge long-standing alliances, and create new enemies and possibly unexpected allies along the way. Ric and Ava, with all the evidence they've gathered, are now at a crossroads, each having to decide whether they will continue their separate paths of revenge, cooperate to achieve a common goal, or perhaps reconsider whether justice and revenge are truly one and the same in this case. And at the center of it all is Christina, a woman struggling with her own demons. Unaware that her past is rapidly catching up to her, and that her impulsive actions may soon have consequences far beyond what she could ever imagine. As the truth slowly comes to light, none of the people involved will be the same, and Port Charles may soon witness one of the biggest scandals in its recent history. Sonny is truly getting a new storyline involving a new obsession with protecting his family at all costs. Especially Christina, the daughter he always feels guilty about not being able to protect properly in the past. Since receiving vague signs from his sources that Christina might be in serious trouble, Sonny has become almost obsessed. He secretly sent people to follow his daughter, check her call history, and even approach her friends to gather information. This obsession doesn't just come from a father's natural love for his daughter, but also from a deep fear that his past sins, the enemies he's made, the decisions he's made, will eventually come back to haunt him through his daughter. Each night, Sonny lies awake, reviewing reports from his men, searching for any clues about the danger he feels is threatening Christina. One of the new twists in the ongoing story is that Sonny is beginning to suspect that Christina might be the source of her own problems, rather than a victim as he once assumed. Reports of her erratic behavior, public arguments at the bar, and especially a tense confrontation with Ava that one of his men witnessed, all raise alarms in his mind. Sonny now has to adjust his approach, from protecting Christina from external threats to stopping her from causing irreparable harm to herself and others. This is a subtle but important shift, forcing Sonny to confront the possibility that the daughter he's always tried to protect may have inherited the most dangerous aspects of his own nature: impulsivity, a tendency toward violence, and the ability to rationalize bad actions. Sonny's shift in actions is evident in how he starts to approach Christina. Instead of continuing to monitor her from a distance, he begins to engage more actively in her life, visiting her at the bar, inviting her to family dinners more often, and even suggesting she return to work for one of his legitimate businesses. These actions are not only to keep her close so he can monitor her but also to rebuild their strained father-daughter relationship. Sonny hopes that by rebuilding trust and closeness, he can gain better insight into what is really happening in Christina's life and intervene before things spiral out of control. One of the new calculations at play, truly making Ric and Ava's dark story explode, is how Sonny is quietly gathering information about their new relationship. As his sources report on the increasing cooperation between Ric and Ava, as well as their secret meetings and tense exchanges, Sonny begins to suspect that they might be conspiring against him in some way. With instincts honed over many years of surviving in the underworld, Sonny can sense when a plot is forming. And all the signs point to Ric and Ava planning something big, something that may involve Christina. Sonny's calculation is evident in how he begins to position his own pieces, a secret call to Jason asking him to come back to Port Charles urgently, a meeting with Diane to discuss potential legal issues, and even a difficult conversation with Alexis to warn her of his suspicions without revealing too much. One of the new features in this storyline is how the past of all the characters is returning to impact the present in complex ways. The feud between Sunny and Ric, which spans decades, with betrayals and unresolved grudges, is now intersecting with the feud between Sunny and Ava over custody of Avery. At the same time, Christina's history of self-destructive behavior and poor choices is becoming central to this conflict. This dynamic creates a complex web of motives and old grudges, making the current situation particularly volatile. Each character brings with them their own wounds and secrets, and as these begin to be exposed, no one can predict what the outcome will be. This is proving to be one of the new shifts in the power dynamics of Port Charles. In the past, Sunny was typically the one in control, the one who could manipulate situations and protect his family from most threats. But now, as age and years of tension begin to catch up with him, and as opponents like Ric and Ava grow bolder in their plans, the balance of power is slowly shifting. Sunny is facing the reality that he may no longer have absolute control, that the empire and family he spent his life building may be more vulnerable than he thought. This shift not only threatens Sunny's position in the underworld but also forces him to confront deeper questions about his legacy and the cost his family has paid, and continues to pay, for the lifestyle he chose. As all the pieces slowly fall into place, Port Charles is heading toward an inevitable confrontation between Sunny, Ric, Ava, and perhaps Christina. The outcome of this confrontation will not only determine Christina's fate but could also reshape the entire power structure and family dynamics in town for years to come. Sunny will now do whatever it takes to protect Christina, his determination becoming stronger than ever as he realizes the level of danger his daughter is facing. The story about his adjustment is increasingly changing as Sunny begins to use all his resources and relationships to build a protective network around Christina. He secretly reaches out to old allies, even former enemies, to gather information and create a barrier to prevent any potential threats. Sunny no longer just watches Christina from afar. He has started to intervene directly in her life, from arranging a new job for her at one of his legitimate businesses to keep her close, to pressuring local police to overlook any complaints about Christina's behavior. One of the new developments that is rapidly escalating is how Sunny is gradually pushing the boundaries of his own morals to protect Christina. He no longer limits himself to using his influence and money, he has started to consider more extreme measures. There are rumors that Sunny has begun planning to eliminate anyone who might threaten Christina's safety. This includes contemplating dealing with those who may know about her actions in the accident. This shift not only shows Sunny's resolve to protect his daughter but also demonstrates that he is gradually returning to his former self, a Sunny Corinthos willing to do anything, even the most illegal and immoral things, to protect his family. It's clear that a new story is unfolding, and this is creating a major turning point in the strained relationship between Ric and Sunny. When Sunny realizes that Ric might be holding important information about Christina's actions, the already complicated relationship between the two brothers becomes even more tense. Sunny has started approaching Ric, initially in a friendly and conciliatory manner, trying to figure out what Ric knows and what his intentions are. However, when Ric proves uncooperative and even hints that he might use this information for revenge, Sunny begins to shift his tactics. The confrontation between Sunny and Ric is escalating quickly, with both using every tool and strategy at their disposal. Sunny has started to pressure Ric's business relationships, threatening to destroy his legal career if he doesn't cooperate. Meanwhile, Ric is using his legal knowledge and connections within the justice system to build a case against Christina, threatening to expose it if Sunny doesn't back down. The battle between these two brothers is no longer just about Christina, it has turned into an all-out power struggle, with each determined to prove that they are the ones in control. This is creating ripples throughout the Port Charles community, as allies and families are forced to choose sides, and long-held secrets are at risk of being revealed. This explosive story raises deep questions about loyalty, family, and the limits of a father's love. It is also challenging the audience to reconsider what they think they know about these characters, as both Sunny and Ric are pushed to their limits and forced to confront the darkest parts of their nature. As this confrontation continues to escalate, It promises to forever change not only the relationship between Sunny and Rick but also the power structure of Port Charles for years to come. Alexis will take new actions to divide Ric and Ava's relationship, an unexpected move from a woman who usually prides herself on her integrity and professional ethics. However, when faced with the possibility that her daughter might face serious criminal charges, Alexis decides that she has no other choice but to intervene. After overhearing a conversation between Molly and TJ about their suspicions that Rick is gathering evidence to charge Christina, Alexis starts her own investigation. Using her legal skills and vast network, she quickly confirms that not only Rick but also Ava hold evidence that could convict Christina, and the two are cooperating in some way. The new story about the increasingly wild situation becomes even crazier as Alexis decides to use her complex past with Rick as a weapon. She knows that despite their tumultuous marriage and terrible breakup, unresolved feelings still linger between them, feelings she is now willing to exploit. Alexis begins a sophisticated campaign to re-establish her presence in Rick's life. Starting with frequent visits to the hospital under the guise of being concerned about his health and the impact of the accident on Molly. During these visits, she subtly reminds Rick of their shared past, the good moments they had, and how they always could rely on each other in tough times. At the same time, Alexis starts planting doubts about Ava in Rick's mind. She reminds him of Ava's devious past, how Ava has used and betrayed others before, and how Ava might be using him for her own purposes. She even accidentally lets Rick learn about Ava's past schemes, causing him to question the true motivations of the woman he is increasingly attached to. Alexis' strategy doesn't stop at influencing Rick. She also approaches Ava, initially in a friendly and sharing manner, pretending to seek advice from another woman who once had to fight to protect her daughter. In these conversations, Alexis subtly hints at her past relationship with Rick, emphasizing the intimate and meaningful moments they shared, implying that unresolved feelings still exist between them. Her goal is to sow jealousy and doubt in Ava's mind, undermining the developing relationship between her and Rick. Alexis' actions are becoming increasingly reckless as she crosses ethical and legal boundaries she would never have considered before. She has begun to track Rick and Ava, documenting their meetings and learning about their plans. She has even considered infiltrating Rick's office to search for evidence he may have against Christina. These actions are in direct contrast to the ethical, serious lawyer image Alexis has built over the years and reveal the extent of her desperation in protecting her daughter. The climax of this madness comes when Alexis decides to use one final trick. She begins creating false evidence to trap Ava, making Rick believe that Ava is deceiving him and intends to use evidence against Christina for her own benefit without sharing it with him. This is a risky and dangerous move, one that could easily backfire and expose her entire plan. But Alexis, like any mother trying to protect her child, has decided that the risk is worth taking. As Alexis continues with her plan, she does not realize that she is slowly becoming the person she once despised, a person willing to lie, manipulate, and even commit crimes to achieve her goal. This transformation threatens not only her professional integrity but also risks causing irreparable damage to her relationship with Molly, who will feel betrayed if she discovers that her mother is trying to destroy her father just to protect Christina. Meanwhile, Rick and Ava, both masters of manipulation and deception, are beginning to realize that something is wrong. They begin to suspect that someone is trying to drive a wedge between them, although they aren't sure if Alexis is behind it. As they start investigating the origins of the suspicious information and evidence they've been receiving, they may discover the truth about Alexis' plan, leading to a confrontation that could change the dynamics between all the parties involved. As this story continues to unfold, it promises to raise tough questions about ethics, motherhood, and the limits we are willing to cross to protect our loved ones. It will also challenge the audience to consider whether the ends justify the means and whether Alexis, while trying to protect one child, might inadvertently harm another.